Hello Turtles! Plans change, and this week was no exception. I did start working on the TurtleBrains improvements as I set out, and I did not start working on a top-down racing game. Instead, I continued working on TurtleBrains and started porting it to iOS devices. I've also found a new plugin for Sublime Text 3 called Plain Tasks, which allows you to create, modify, and manage to-do lists very easily, and even keeps track of when items were completed or canceled, or even created if you desire. For the TurtleBrains improvements, I have updated the logo to the new logo, so I finally completed that. It still has a lot of room for improvement, but I think this one's going to stick around for at least a few months, maybe even a year. I've changed the default font that gets shipped and included with TurtleBrains, as well as I faded to black on the TurtleBrains splash screen just before your game. The Entity Manager now has a convenience function called Clear Entities, as this is much easier to recall and remember. And entity behaviors now delay their delete, so calling pop from within their simulate function is completely safe. The many functions that you had, like on simulate, on update, on render, on added, and on removed, these were previously not so consistent with past tense and present tense, and now they're all using present tense. So on added has become on add, and on removed has become on remove. I've also removed static const color objects from within TurtleBrains and replaced these with a enumeration value for color palettes and an implicit constructor in the color object to create from this color palette. This is mostly for code safety, as there's a potential race condition in how things get compiled with static const objects. TurtleBrains to iOS. Well, this was a new item. I wasn't expecting to do it, but I started. It was mostly smooth sailing. However, I did run into some troubles trying to get started with a Hello World GL app. I followed like 3 or 4 different tutorials, none of them as straightforward as I'd hoped. They all seemed to be for previous versions of Xcode and or iOS, and well, I finally got it working. But that did take a little bit longer than expected. And then I ran into some severe issues when I started porting that into TurtleBrains because I forgot to call GL viewport. So I was able to see the screen getting cleared to black or orange, but not any of the sprites or anything because I never set up the GL viewport. Now that I've set that up, I do actually see all the sprites, text, everything's rendering properly. However, the sizes and orientation is completely wrong because TurtleBrains has no concept of orientation for landscape or portrait modes, and it has no concept of touch input. Both of those items are going to need to get addressed, and so I'm probably going to pause the iOS port until I can actually sit down and think and develop those out in a proper manner. As far as what's happening next week, I think I'm going to continue working on a handful of TurtleBrain improvements. I don't have any actual roadmap set out for me. It could potentially be working on that 2D racer, maybe some physics, maybe just working on practicing art. I'm not yet sure, so come back next week and we'll figure it out then. Until later, have a good one.